these are connectors in this freedom movement, and we are so lucky to have people that sort of go around and just have these gifts of figuring this all out and bringing us all together. So they're the connectors, and I'm so happy to have Maggie here tonight. Maggie, go front, please come on up. And Maggie's from Peterborough, so she made the trip over here to do you want the mic on the loose here, or how would you like it?
Yeah, that's good for now. I might loosen it up and hold it. Oh. Well, it's amazing to be here. Look around the room. It is packed. They say during the American Revolution, the people met in churches, taverns, and barns. So here we are. It's not often we get to speak in a tavern, in a beautiful tavern like this, in a basement. Very interesting down here. It says legends on the wall. And I noticed that every city of Canada is represented, including Pembroke, which is really cool, all around here. So this is a very symbolic room and symbolic space, and I appreciate the speaker before me and the history of your gathering here and how it began after the convoy. So, you know, I got here and looked around the room and just noticed the familiar faces. And many times this isn't our first time being at a gathering together. And I started noticing that after the convoy, even before the convoy, that we are really a beautiful group of people that has a certain spirit and a certain mission and a certain truth, and we just keep coming together and coming together, and we all have a mission in all of this, and we all have a calling, and we're all following that, or else we wouldn't be here tonight, right? So thank you so much for coming tonight to hear about what we've been doing at the municipal level. This is really one of the ways that we can be more effective in pushing back on this big global agenda that is really influencing our lives and affecting our future and the future of our country for our children. So, I'm just going to flip to my slideshow. I'm not sure if I have sound on that. So a little bit about me before we get into this. Just like all of you, I am born into this world and started asking questions at a quite young age, and I found myself always being interested in trying to make the world a better place. And I found myself going to school for ecosystem management. I went to Sir Sanford Fleming College and studied environmental studies. And while I was there, I got a few courses in geology, and that really helped me to wake up to the fact that the Earth's climate has always changed. And I started to question what I had been taught from a young age about climate change. And the more I dug into it, the more I saw that this theory was being used to take away our rights and our sovereignty. And I didn't know how deep it went until I started looking into how it is affecting us at a municipal level and how it's being implemented at a municipal level. For many years, I just thought that the federal government was doing this, and the media was propagandizing us, and so on. And I really had no idea that they were mainly implementing this agenda at the local level. And I think that they've hidden that from us for a really long time, because if we only knew that we could push back and we could organize ourselves to push back on the global agenda simply by starting with a core group in every town who, with the right tools, could start to rally the people and engage at that civic level where we still have many options available to us that we haven't even tried yet to push back across the country. So I started after the convoy, I testified at the Public Order Inquiry Commission with Chris Deering, the veteran from New Brunswick, about my experience in Ottawa and, well, what it was like to be there during the Emergency Act and when they cleared the streets and so on. And after that, my life changed a lot. After the convoy, my life changed a lot. And I really feel like I got back onto the path that I was meant to be on, because, like I said, I went to school for the environmental stuff. I woke up near the end of my training. I moved out to British Columbia and started to push back on the official plan in British Columbia in my town in 2009, right? So I started noticing it being implemented at the local level then, but then I turned and focused at the federal level and bigger issues, and then I homeschooled my kids for 12 years, and I think every mother in the room knows that when you have children, you kind of put your life on hold for your children. And I knew that what needed to be done in this country is going to take a lot of work. And I basically told the Lord, you're going to have to give me 12 years because I need to raise these kids. And after 12 years, the convoy happened, and I happened to be close to Ottawa and went. And everything's just changed since that moment. So one day I can go a little bit more into that story, but I do feel like I'm back on my path, and I think that all of us have a path and a mission. And if we just keep going into that direction and speaking when we need to speak, going where we need to go, putting ourselves in situations that seem scary, getting out of our comfort zone, we're actually going to see a lot of things change, which is what I've been doing. And it's amazing to see the results of simple actions and that they can actually make a big difference. So we'll get into it. So like I said, most of us know that these international organizations exist. They seem out of our hands, out of our control. We know the government is being governed with directions from all these international organizations. And in the middle of it is our towns and our cities, right? Like the city of Thorold. And what we found was that in 1992, Canada signed on to Agenda 21, and 2 years later, an organization called KICLEI. Has everyone heard of KICLEI? Oh, some of you haven't heard of KICLEI. Good. Well, KICLEI has eluded us for some time, and KICLEI was the key to unlocking the municipal, how Agenda 21 is being implemented at the municipal level. So KICLEI is the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. It partnered with the Government of Canada around 1994 to fund UN directive programs that would be implemented at the local level. And so they went to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and they said, hey, we're going to fund some sustainable development programs. And the Federation of Canadian Municipalities said, you're going to give us money? Cool. We'll take it. And next thing you know, you look at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and pretty much every program that they have is about sustainable development and climate change and green energy and so on. And the only way our municipalities can get any money is if they adopt this agenda. And they set up the Green Municipal Fund. And again, this is where the money is coming from. So they take our money and then they give it back if we implement the agenda, and if they don't go along with it, then they miss out on that funding. So you have to. So the Prime Minister of Canada is very interested in Canadian municipalities. He goes to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities annual conferences and speaks to them about Agenda 2030 on a regular basis. And we see at the bottom there, the slogan at the conference was local action, national results. So they know that if they want to implement this agenda, they need to strategize at that national level and pump it down at the local level and do it all across the country at the same time, which is what they've been doing. And I would suggest that if we want to push back on that agenda, we need to strategize with all the best brains on our side against this agenda at a national level, create the templates so that every town can push back with the effective strategies. And one of the effective strategies is effective delegations, which is what we've been doing when we go into our local councils. So, local action, national results. So, sustainable development. It sounds like a good idea. In 1994, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities sent a 40-page document to all of our towns and cities, and First Nations are involved in this as well. And it's basically a blueprint on achieving sustainable development. So what is sustainable development? Well, when it was coined during the Brundtland Commission, it states that they want to save the land and resources for future generations. And in order to do that, individuals cannot be allowed to control the land. So, just be specific, individuals cannot control the land, and public control of land use is indispensable. So, it's really against private property rights, is what it is. And when we look at how it's being implemented, we can see that is what's been happening. Our land is being slowly taken from us. So what's fascinating about the Municipal Primer is it's a very creepy document when you read it. It talks about human settlement areas and drastic changes to our lifestyles that are required, and there's on page 9 a blueprint of how Agenda 21 would be implemented through Canadian municipalities. And if we look at the means of implementation, I know it's really small, but it says promoting education, public awareness and training, and number 2, information for decision making, and number 3, the transfer of environmentally sound technology. So there are some clues here. There's many clues here, to be honest. One, if we want to reverse this, we should be focused on promoting education, public awareness and training, information for decision making, and pushing back on whatever they're calling environmentally sound technology. So that is what KICLEI is all about. We are offering education on these issues, as well as public awareness and training, so people can be trained to go in and do this across the country, information for decision making, so providing clear information to our councils so they can make better decisions, and reversing this change in technology. So we'll get into that. I did want to. There it is. So I'll just take a pause here and tell you about KICLEI. So the mission of KICLEI, I didn't print my notes, is found in the KICLEI primer. This is our counter to the municipal primer. It's about a 25-page document at this point, but it's strategies to oppose this agenda and these UN directive programs. And it says, KICLEI seeks to educate our communities and councils on UN directive programs, their origins, aims, disadvantages, unsubstantiated rationales, associated liabilities, and to provide clear, reasonable, and helpful recommendations that empower councils to end their voluntary participation in UN directive programs. Because these programs are voluntary. So the Partners for Climate Protection Program is one of the main programs that the FCM and KICLEI is pushing here in Canada. 500 municipalities across Canada have signed up for the program since 1994. Let's go back there. So you can see here, 1994 to 2021, that's their growth. And this is the map. You can go to the PCP website and you can see which municipalities have signed up with this UN directive program. And if you're not on the map, just check on the side list, because not all the municipalities, for some reason, are popping up on the map. And what we've done is actually gone through this and saved all of this data. So we now know on our back database all the municipalities, and we're gathering all the councillors' contact information so that when we're doing public awareness campaigns from the grassroots level, they'll also be receiving information from our bigger national network of information researchers going down. So the Partners for Climate Protection Program, they are basically aiming for net zero by 2050. This is about greenhouse gas reduction. And I always thought that net zero was just a word that they said. I didn't think that they were actually aiming for zero greenhouse gas emissions. And that is actually what they're aiming for. So if you can believe it, they join the Partners for Climate Protection Program, or they partner with a local NGO that is working with the Partners for Climate Protection Program. And these guys spend hundreds of hours calculating how many cars we all have, what is everyone's energy consumption looking like, not just at the municipal buildings and their fleet, but all of us. And not just our energy consumption, but also our waste production. So how many cows do you have in your field? How much is coming out of the landfill? And some of that might be reasonable, and we might want to take a look at that, but the reason why they're doing it is they want to take that number, that calculation, put it into the KICLEI software, set the reduction target to 0 by 2050, and then it pumps out all of these action items that need to go into your municipal plans so that they can reach net zero. And that is what they're doing. So that is why it's so important that we go in and we are addressing this when our strategic plans come up, when our climate change action plans come up, when our official plans come up, and that we're very clear about the issue we have and our recommendations, and that we show up in full force, professionally, with lots of people behind us. And if you can't make it, well, there's all these different strategies. We can really show up and have thousands of people supporting our recommendations, and that's what we need to do to push back. The people need to show up. So this is an example from Huntsville, and you can see, you know, how many off-road vehicles do you guys have? How about your private vehicles? Well, you can't have that. What does it look like? Net zero. All of it. And if you don't get all of it, well, that's what the National 30 by 30 program is for, or in Canada, I think it's called 25 by 25. So their government, along with corporate and foreign investors, are buying up all the land, and they're making it so the humans can't use that land, and that will be their carbon sink, so that when we can't get this down to 0, we'll have to pay them for, you know, the carbon credits, right? So they got this whole big plan. And I know you can't really see there, but this just came out of Muskoka, and you can see, I don't know if I can move very far. You can see there it says KICLEI, down here strategic plan, and this is their resolution. And that they are committing to reducing corporate and community greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. That's what it says. Have you guys ever watched Captain Planet? No? Oh man, I was totally brainwashed when I was a kid. I love that show, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it has this whole, like, it's like these planet warriors, you know, and, you know, there's earth and fire and wind and water and rain. But they got this, like, their song at the beginning. When I saw this, it came to mind, their song, and goes, Captain Planet, he's a hero, gonna take pollution down to 0. Ugh. Oh my God, thank God I watched Care Bears along with that. Pardon? With the big yelling. Yes, yeah. Man. So these are councils. Oh my gosh. So they've been joining since 1994. And a lot of our councils at this point don't even know that they're part of it. I honestly think that they don't even know. And of course, if you're in a rural municipality, it's likely that somebody from a local sustainability NGO came and did a presentation there 10, 15 years ago, and the council at that point said, hey, of course we want to do sustainability. And they partnered with the NGO, and they have no idea that this NGO is partnered with the Partners for Climate Protection Program, and its goal is net zero. They don't really know, a lot of them. The way that this happens, and we're watching it now in Thorold of Niagara, is one of the places that we've been working with the counselors there, because this program, they tried to bring it in last year. And as soon as the one counselor saw it, he asked, okay, it says it's free, but what's the catch, right? And the other counselor saw and kind of had knew what it was, and he wasn't for it. So he tabled that motion. And it came up again, and they asked again, what is the cost? And their planner, who actually put it on the agenda, which the staff isn't supposed to do. The agenda items are supposed to come from the councillors, I believe, right? So the staff put it on there, and anyway, they would not answer the questions about, like, what are the tools that it offers? How much does it cost? Obviously, this is going to take some time. How many hours? You know, like, we can't just adopt something without knowing what it is. And the staff kept basically saying that they needed them to adopt the program before they would be able to tell them what it is. So the counselors there were not too impressed, and they said, okay, you got 1 year. We're not going to adopt it. You guys have a 1-year trial with it. You come back to us in a year, a full report on what it is and what the tools are. So a year passed, and the counselors there saw what we were doing and said, hey, I think this would be of interest to you. And we got ready to do delegations in Thorold. And I called the clerk to get on, and his answer was, oh, well, we didn't actually sign up a year ago, and we just signed up now, so we still have a whole year with it. So, and the reason why they did that is because the strategic plan for the area is only being initiated now. So they wanted that plan in place. I might be getting a bit complicated here, but they saw they only had a year, so the staff tried to trick the council there again. And what's wonderful about all of this is everything's recorded. Everything's on public record. And the councils are starting to really see what's going on here. And we get to see it too. So despite the fact that the staff were trying to get them to accept the fact that they still needed 1 more year with it, we were able to win a couple different things in the council there, and now we have a plan, and we should be able to get this program fully out of Thorold, and we'll go into that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. All started with how the councils joined. So the councils join by adopting a pre-drafted resolution. It's a 3-page document. I'll just hold this one up for, oh, there it is. It's a 3-page document. This piece of paper is what we're up against. A 3-page piece of paper. I think we can outsmart this. Okay? No, we don't win by setting it on fire.
That's a good start.
We don't do voodoo over it. We read it. We understand what it is, where it's coming from, what their supporting rationale is. It's right there. The reason we're doing this is because climate change I'll go there. Apparently, I jump around a lot. I'm getting good. New to doing presentations again, so.
Doing great.
So, this is their supporting rationale. It is well established that climate change is increasing the frequency of extreme weather events and posing a risk to our natural environment, our health, our jobs, and our economy, and that Canada is committed to limiting the global temperature increase to below 2 degrees Celsius, according to the Paris Agreement. And local governments are essential to the successful implementation of the Paris Agreement. Really? I guess they haven't taken any geology because the Earth's climate has always changed, and it was warmer during the medieval warming period than it is today. And we just came out of the little ice age as early as 1850, and it's no surprise we're in a period of warming, and there's no way that local governments are going to be able to stop the earth from warming if it wants to, or cooling. Well, we won't go there. The point is, this is what they're going in on. That's it. That's their supporting rationale. And at this point, we could literally go in there with grade 2 science facts and tear this rationale apart, for one thing, and make it look really stupid, especially because we're going up against the UN climate chief who says that we need faster action because humans only have 2 years left to save the world. So that's their science, and maybe we do, guys. Maybe we do only have 2 years left to save the world, but it's not from climate change. Yeah. So they get tricked into adopting this piece of paper. Paper matters in councils. Words matter. The words on the paper matter. Things get passed in, adopted as a resolution, that sticks. You can't undo that unless you bring it forward again to be reconsidered. That's the only way. So we need to first bring it to their attention that they adopted this motion. And from that motion, their strategic plan was affected by it. And then their official plan was affected by it. And then they laid out on top of that a healthy environment plan and a rainbow sidewalk plan. Because, of course, if you look at the Partners for Climate Protection Program website, they're addressing climate change, but they're also quite interested in, what is their wording? Implementing equity, diversity, and inclusion into climate action plans. So that's where that's coming from. And the only way to get that out of there is to find that original motion that's bringing it all in. Get it back in front of them. So you go in on an item on your agenda that's related to these action items. You let them know that it's connected to this. You let them know what the disadvantages are for the program, and you recommend they reconsider it. And we have to do it politely and according to their rules, right?
Why?
Because it's enough. It is enough if we show up with this many people and you all just sat there and stared at them. That is enough.
Went in and said, we've had enough. You work for us, not the other way around. So all of this is going to get changed.
You could go about that way, but this way will work more effectively. If you want to win, if we want to win, we need to calm, cool, and collected. There is a reason why everyone is so easily triggered right now, and it's legitimate. We're being abused by a narcissistic power. They know how to trigger us. And the best thing that we can do is to be the bigger people. So the way that we can do that is by doing these presentations, showing up in full force, being very clear about our recommendations, keeping it really simple, and there was a few other things, and doing good public awareness and getting good public support behind these recommendations. So, So that's what we started doing. So last July, it's not even been a year, I did my first delegation to the city of Peterborough. And that video was seen across the country. And it led to other people all across the country going in and doing similar delegations and learning more and finding out about, we didn't know at the time that we went in there, we knew about KICLEI, but we didn't know about this Partners for Climate Protection program. At least I didn't. Obviously there was people who knew about it. But you know, all of us kind of bringing this information together. And so we've learned a lot. And then we went a couple weeks later to a little town called Dummer, which is in the Peterborough County. I'll give you a little. So this is not all of it, but Peterborough County. So the city of Peterborough is surrounded by Peterborough County and its 8 townships and 2 First Nations. And they adopted the Greater Peterborough Area Community Sustainability Plan administered by Sustainable Peterborough, who is partnered with the Partners for Climate Protection program and is also directly partnered with KICLEI. And they're the ones bringing it in. And the way they did that is they went in and they did presentations and they got them to adopt the programs. So in order to undo this, and I'm going to use Peterborough as an example, and you can, I know we got Barry's Bay here, people came from Kingston, people came from all over. So if I was going to do this all over again, what would I like to know? What information would I need in order to get this off the ground? Well, first you want to start off by understanding how it's coming into your town, right? So some towns are directly, and cities are directly partnered with the Partners for Climate Protection program. So that makes it easy. You find that resolution and you start going in and doing the delegations and the other items I'll get to. But in Peterborough County, for instance, there's one NGO and it's got all the entire area to partner. So in order to address this problem in Peterborough, we want to lay out some certain information. So you create a little spreadsheet, you get your city of Peterborough, Peterborough County, all the 8 different townships and the 2 First Nations and Sustainable Peterborough contact information, and you start plugging in your information because you want to know, you want to have it all in one spot, or else you're just going to start running in circles, and it's just going to help you be a lot more organized to have the home page, the contact page for your mayor, know when your meetings are, know the rules for speaking to each council because it is different, and then have like where to watch the meetings, and then start, once you have all that information, plus you would get like the clerk's information in here, and then once you have all that information, I would just mass email each clerk with the exact wording found in the KICLEI primer and acquire the joining resolution and the motion. And then once you have the motion for each of, so you find the partnership. So you want to find the exact motion for each one and hold on to it. Because that is the magic words. That is your spell. They said they use words to put them under this spell, in a sense. And in order to undo the spell, we need to use those words to undo it. Okay? It's quite fascinating. And just understand where it all came from, right? So, oh, I spelled resolutions wrong. Okay. So then once you have that resolution and you have them for each of your municipalities, that are in that area, because you don't want to just save yours, you want to save them all. Go for all of them, right? It's better to work together because you're going to find people in neighboring townships to work with, and that way you can kind of cross the lines and come in and support each other for delegations to get this done. So you want to then draft your resolution specific to the area. So a resolution kind of looks like this. Therefore, so you do your whole delegation, which I'll show you after, but what's really important is that you do your resolution. So here we have that the Council of the City of Peterborough reconsider report number adoption of the climate change GHG reduction targets and action plans December 12, 2016, and communicate to Sustainable Peterborough the cancellation of its partnership with its organization, and that the Council of the City of Peterborough reconsider its participation in the Partners for Climate Protection Program, which began in 2000, and communicate to FCM and KICLEI Canada the cancellation of its membership in the PCP program. How boring is that? Is that boring? They make it really boring. Yeah.
When you look at the map that you showed at the beginning,
Yes.
the only community here in our area, in Renfrew County, that signed up seems to be the city of Pembroke.
Okay.
Now, does that mean the other municipalities do not want part of it, or they haven't decided yet whether they are or not? Like, are we going too far in this because our other municipalities are not interested?
So Renfrew County, I would look at
I did.
and it's not there?
It's not.
That's good. So then go for Pembroke. Find Pembroke's resolution and focus on that. And I was doing some research on my way over here, and I was looking to see if there was an NGO operating in this area, and I saw a lot in Ottawa that might be affecting this area, but I didn't see one specific for Renfrew yet.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Do you find some of them that they post everything? If you're gonna go look for it electronically, do they post everything?
So Peterborough did, but not all of them do. But you will see it in their environmental committee reports. If you see net zero in there, then they're aiming for it. So along with you want to find the resolution, you want to draft your recommendation and be really clear about what that is, make it simple. And then you want to put that recommendation into a statement of support with information on the program and the disadvantages of the program, and then start getting signatures and holding events like this and getting as many signatures as you can on that statement of support. And if you have a website, even putting it up there on the website and putting a poll so that people from the area can show by a poll that they support your recommendations. So then when you go in there, so on Monday we went in to Peterborough, and they were accepting a report on the Climate Change Action Plan 2.0, pathway to net zero. And it was all about the public feedback that they had received. That's what the report was. And apparently, in the report, it says that their website on this plan has been up since November last year. And since that time, 350 people have viewed the page, which doesn't seem like a lot. And 55 people did the survey, and they did a phone survey and reached 500 people. And it doesn't say anywhere in that report whether the people that they gathered feedback from were for or against this plan in any way. And I'm not surprised by that, because they gear the questions to make it so that everyone's in favor of sustainable development. So in comparison, we had just found out about this on Sunday, and we got on the agenda the next day, the day of the eclipse. So we released our "we're going in" announcement on Gather 2030 just slightly after 11 o'clock. The meeting was at 6. We had 2,620 views on our page, 101 poll responses, 45 signatures on paper opposed, or I should say in support of our recommendations, and 30 people showed up to attend the meeting, and there were 2 delegates, both myself and John Dunn. So we introduced ourselves, in a sense, just like Sustainable Peterborough did 30 years ago, and said, hey, we formed a new network in town, and we gathered feedback on this, and in 6.5 hours, here's the response we got, right? That makes a difference. All of a sudden, you get a little bit more respect when you do it like that. You can go in there and know what you're talking about, but if you're not there with the people supporting you, you're not going to get as far. And it's not that hard to go about this. It's a simple recommendation, statement of support, and networking in your groups that you're a part of, so that everyone can get quicker. And that's why I started the Gather 2030 newsletter, was so that we could get these ideas out, not just in Peterborough, but all across the country. And now we've started a new one just for Peterborough, and it's the Peterborough and Kawartha Grassroots Network. Call it whatever you want. It's a local council on local issues or environmental issues. So we're going to basically take KICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives, and create a local council on local environmental initiatives, right? We flip it. Everything needs to be flipped. We parallel everything, right? They gave us the blueprint on how they did this, and our way out is to follow the steps. And it's boring, and it takes administration, and nobody wants to do all of that. But do you want to win? Or do you want to just get more stressed out about all of it? Or do you just want to get something done and make a difference? Because, oh my gosh, you know how excited people are across the country? That someone went into a town hall and pointed out some things in an official plan that were bad and were going to kill a township, and it actually worked. It's like, how hard it was for people to actually think that mattered, but enough people saw, oh my God, it did matter, and this is something that, wait a second, it almost wasn't real to people that we could have a win, and we finally did. So that's where it seems like a good use of my time and energy. So we formed our network, and and would someone like to read this? Get tired of myself talking sometime. Okay. Thank you, Karen. You biked all the way here from British Columbia. Courtney, BC. And she's going to take this home to Courtney, BC. Maybe I'll meet you there. I'm going to be there in May.
Okay. The Peterborough and Kawartha Grassroots Network has formed to ensure the recommended sustainable development policies adopted and implemented do not deliberately or inadvertently infringe or restrict on the Canadian way of life, property ownership, single-family homes, private car ownership, and individual travel choices, and privately owned farms. as may be required by policy recommendations originating in or traceable to Agenda 21, adopted by the United Nations in 1992 at its Conference on Environment and Development. The 2030 Agenda, take a breath here.
I know. Tell me.
The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the UN's proposal to reach net zero emissions by 2050, or any other international law or ancillary plan of action that contravenes the Constitution of the Canada or provincial constitutions. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can see this is still in the drafting stage. This is basically taken from a resolution that just passed in Tennessee. And their resolution was adopted and passed into law. And now the entire state of Tennessee is now rejecting Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, Net Zero, 2030. So this is something we can easily get behind at this point because it's picking up quick, okay? So quick. So on the Gather 2030 YouTube channel, and I'll try and get it on Rumble, but you can watch all these delegations. There's a playlist for Peterborough, there's a playlist for Duro-Dummer, there's a playlist for Thorold, there's a playlist for Kawartha. They all have a bit of a different flavor to them. Please note that we were learning a lot that first year, and some of it might be confusing to watch. And there's a couple different initiatives taking place at that local level. So we're trying to each of us who's kind of moving forward with this is trying to clearly define their method of moving forward, and that's going to help to clear up confusion. So. Again, we want to address the climate realism. There's great resources available. And I think I'm going to play for you a project I've been working on. And so we really want to up this message. Oh yeah, I know what I wanted to show you. Decide which order to do it in. Oh yeah. We were excited about Tennessee. I'll save the rest of the good, fun announcements for after this, because it's not the only one that's turning this around. So we want to get this message out there, and it can be complicated and confusing a little bit to explain. So I created a video, and it's almost ready for release. It's not quite done. There will be captions added and other things. We might make it a little bit shorter. It's 7 minutes at this point. But we want to be able to explain to our communities and our councils this information in a quick snapshot, right? So you guys are going to get to see that video, and I'll then share the rest of it. I'm not sure what time it is now. Okay, I see. So hopefully the sound will work on this, Lyle.
How about I put a mic up to the speaker on the laptop? Would that be quicker?
I don't actually hear it playing.
There's no sound coming from your
No.
laptop either?
Let's do it this way.
That way?
Do you have like a headphone jack on your computer?
I think so, yes.
Me too. I think you might.
Okay. Sarah. So this video can be shared if you're wanting to send it to your counselors, if you're wanting to share it among your networks, you want to share it. I would do your community action plan, get a bit of an idea of what you're up against, the words that you need to use in order to get out of it, start circulating and having a statement of support so that people can get behind it. So when you're sharing the video and when you're sharing the information, they can immediately act on it, and we can make it easy. We need their signatures, and we need their support on polls, and we want to make sure like every person matters. So, uh-oh. Is that me or? Oh.
How did he get away with that?
Am I muted? Where's that? No, this is something different. Okay. I wonder if, none of them are working. I wonder if it's because
Your
I'm,
volume there has a cap. You click on that.
I think that,
Microphone up at the top, right?
That's that cap. Turn it on there.
it's okay, the video wants to be, interesting. Maybe if I just close it. Go back in now. That's sad. See if there's something else I can share. So over in Thorold, I was telling you about that. They gave them, because the staff didn't have any answers, again, for the council in Thorold, they gave them 3 months and said, come back and tell us what this program is, what it costs, and so on. And then right away, they tried to get into their strategic plan, and our counselors recorded the meeting, and or I guess it was recorded, and our good counselors there shut down this stuff from coming into the council right away. And oh, we're hearing things. And so we're going back there in 3 months, and we're going to bring an accredited climate scientist on our side. I'm going to read up on every workbook available on the Partners for Climate Protection program. They have a workbook for each of the 5 milestones that's clearly accessible on the PCP website, and yet the staff couldn't tell them what the program was. I'm going to be able to tell them what the program is, and I'm going to go in there and answer every question that they asked and give good examples, because I called Peterborough's climate specialist and had a 2-hour-long conversation with him, and he could answer the questions, so we have the answers. And I'm going to go in there with an accredited scientist, as well as his partner, who focuses on the economic cost of these policies, and then hopefully 7 residents from the area, and we're going to shut down this program in Thorold. There's no question in my mind that this will work. So then we can use that as an example.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
Additional CO2.
Okay,
Let's preserve our net.
so listen to the tone, okay?
Yeah.
I want you guys to listen because the tone matters. I showed this to my dad and my mom today. My dad watches CBC. And I haven't been able to have a conversation with him my entire adult life about anything, any current issue. He watched this and he said, very good, Maggie. I think I get it. Okay? So the tone matters. It really matters if we want to win. Remove every triggering word. Make it so they don't know what side it's coming from. Okay? And it's sorry. So, did you hear what I said though? Okay. Okay. So I'll play the video, 7 minutes. There's some parts that might get a little fast. We're still working out the kinks. But this hopefully is something that you can take and do a meeting in your hometown. You can share a video like this once it's complete. You can have your recommendations ready, get your signatures, and start to get ready for these delegations.
Natural environment while ensuring prosperity for future generations. Let's preserve our natural environment while ensuring prosperity for future generations. Have you heard of the Partners for Climate Protection program? In light of nationwide local issues, we hope Canadian municipal and First Nations councils will hear this message and consider our recommendations. In 1992, Canada attended the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development in Rio de Janeiro and adopted its agenda. This led to Canada's endorsement of the Paris Agreement. Since that time, we have seen countries being governed with directions from the United Nations, the G7, the G20, and KICLEI, the International Council on Local and Environmental Initiatives. In 1994, the Government of Canada partnered with KICLEI to fund sustainable development programs. To kick off these programs, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities released a municipal primer on the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, promoting sustainable development through local strategic action, which provided a blueprint for achieving sustainable development through Canadian municipalities and First Nations. Originally coined during the Brundtland Commission, the term sustainable development refers to preserving the natural resources for future generations, and states that the land cannot be controlled by individuals. The Partners for Climate Protection program is a means of implementation, providing information for decision-making, aimed at reducing CO2 emissions through a rapid transition to alternative energy. Using KICLEI software, energy consumption and waste data is collected. Reduction targets are set to 0 by 2050. Action plans are then produced for Council's endorsement of expenditures and policy changes, and progress is monitored and reported annually. A supporting rationale for the program is found in their joining resolution, stating that climate change is increasing the frequency of extreme weather events and posing a risk to our natural environment, our health, our jobs, and our economy, and that Canada has committed to limiting the global temperature increase to below 2 degrees Celsius, according to the Paris Agreement. It may be surprising to learn, but CO2 makes up just 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere, of which human activities may contribute just 5%. Canada is the second largest country in the world, comprised of 60% forests and only 0.5% of the world's human population. Despite the energy requirements attributed to living in a large, cold country, Canadians contribute only 1.6% of all man-made emissions. Furthermore, the Earth has natural cold and warm phases. Glacial and interglacial periods correlate with the Earth's orbit and tilt, and the Little Ice Age ended as recently as 1850. So it's no surprise that we are experiencing a period of warming. Computer models produced by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change have many shortcomings and should be scrutinized as policy tools. They not only ignore the fact that enriching the atmosphere with CO2 is beneficial, but they also conflate the effects of greenhouse gases. CO2 is not a pollutant. In fact, it is an essential building block for all life on Earth. Additional CO2 in the atmosphere promotes growth in the global plant biomass and is profitable for agriculture, increasing the yields of crops worldwide. Lastly, it is difficult to attribute the direct effect of atmospheric changes to weather phenomena in such complex systems, and data shows that the number of fatalities due to extreme weather events has declined over the past century. Climate policy must respect both scientific and economic realities. This is best determined at the local level, where those who hold decision-making authority have a pulse on the immediate needs of their communities. The Partners for Climate Protection program claims to be free, so what's the catch? In order to reduce 100% of emissions by 2050, council time is required for review and endorsement of these action items. Staff time is required for data collection, analysis, and implementation. Public funds and assets are also required for implementation, and further fees will be incurred if net zero targets are not met. Sustainable development policies may deliberately or inadvertently infringe or restrict on the Canadian way of life. Property ownership and single-family homes, private car ownership and individual travel choices, and privately owned farms. Action plans aimed at net zero often target mobility, privacy, and energy security, which is essential to all Canadians. These plans also lead to costly municipal expenditures and unnecessary restrictions on building permits. Official plans based on UN directives may overstep on property and water rights and limit severances, and drive population growth away from rural lands to less desirable areas. Reduced growth means reduced tax revenue and services to the majority of Canada. Territorially speaking, after 30 years we have seen the results. As many of our small towns have turned into ghost towns, no longer permitted to be subdivided. Rural properties, once in families for generations, have been sold off, primarily to corporate or foreign investors. While our cities face housing, drug, and mental health crises, and prospects of home ownership dwindle for many, meaningful public consultation is the basis upon which local councils are to consider their decision-making. Instead, staff are being directed to consult with the Partners for Climate Protection program and local NGOs affiliated with KICLEI, who then provide links online to surveys to pick our top 3 sustainable development action items. This is leading councils to believe the community wants this agenda, while delegations opposed to net zero action items may be denied, as councils now consider their decision-making under UN directives aimed at achieving Agenda 2030. This is not meaningful public consultation. UN directive programs may prioritize policies from a global over grassroots perspective, and redirect public funds and assets to private development goals and foreign investors. Moreover, local integrity commissioners may become bound to these goals, meaning councillors who oppose the UN directives could face consequences, all while the Government of Canada and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities accept no responsibility for the programs they are funding and administrating, leaving our local governing bodies responsible for endorsement and implementation of net zero action items. Thankfully, these programs are voluntary and councils can pass a resolution to leave at any time. The council is the governing body of each municipality or First Nation, the custodians of its powers, which are exercised through bylaws and resolutions. Councils have a duty to represent the public and protect the land and water from international lobbyist groups and corporations. Your local residents would like to support you in this position. Upon reviewing the aims of sustainable development and seeing the impacts on the current generation, we trust our local councils share in our concerns and are looking for solutions. Therefore, we strongly oppose the net zero CO2 policies proposed for 2050. Go for adaptation instead of mitigation. Adaptation works whatever the causes are. Specifically, we recommend that our councils direct staff to locate any motions to participate in FCM KICLEI programs and bring them forward for reconsideration. These resolutions should be rescinded. Canadians are counting on their elected representatives to consider these recommendations, and the many people now facing unnecessary hardships in what is and what should remain an inherently prosperous nation. Local mayors and councillors, as well as First Nation councils and chiefs, are in a uniquely powerful position to restore hope and true environmental stewardship within their jurisdictions. For more information and support, check out the KICLEI Substack.
So that's my first crack at a video. And you know a piece of art, when you play with it for too long, you almost want to just scrap it and start again. Well, this has been a fun process, and I think it's close, but I love watching it in a room like this, because without you even giving me feedback, I already know what needs to be changed about it, again, or whatever. But it is a good overview of the program, and it can be simplified for sure. And it summarizes it, because I forgot to mention that one part about how the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Government of Canada, even though they're funding and administrating this program, they accept no responsibility for it. And they're leaving it to our local mayors and councils to adopt it and implement it. So they're the ones responsible for it. And that should weigh on their conscience a little bit, that this is affecting future generations and our energy security and our freedom and our prosperity. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. So I'll go back to this and I'll let you know.
Let's preserve our natural environment.
Oh, I'll have to go now. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing. And we're catching up on our climate science. We're going back to grade 2. And on Gather 2030, there's a little article called Climate Science 101. And we're giving everyone the tools so that they can either download an app on their and read it while they're on break at work and just catch up, so we can be well educated. A well educated public would never have let this happen, but they've kept certain things from us. They taught us theories so that they could push this agenda, and we need to be well informed. And clintel.org has released the World Climate Declaration, signed by now 1,917 scientists. It goes up every week. And it only started in August last year. And they're all physicists and actual scientists, not just computer model people who know how to build fancy computer models, if you can imagine that. And they released a statement that there is no climate emergency. And on page 3 is a whole bunch of facts that all these accredited scientists agree are true. And a lot of them were in the video there. A lot of them were left out because it's just too much information, right? So we're trying to keep to the basic facts when we go in there. We need to keep it short. We need to keep it simple. We need to dumb it down a little bit. We need to make it interesting. Bring a slideshow. There's slideshow templates on the Gather 20 on the KICLEI primer that you can download, and it gets revised every week because more and more information is added every week on how we can practically do this in our towns. And I'm going to try and make it clear what new pages are added. So climate realism. And basically, we're going in there and letting them know, that this is a fascinating example. I'm not in the. Yeah, I already showed you that. Like in our delegation on Monday night, we went in, we let them know that Sustainable Peterborough, the NGO that did this report, did this plan for them, says right in their mission statement that they are focused on implementing and tracking the United Nations goals in our community, the implementation of the goals there. And it says, you look at their strategic plan and it's all the UN Sustainable Development Goal logos, and they're quite upfront about the fact that they're doing this. So this is who they're working with. It's plain as day. And then we point out the fact that, the United Nations is no longer a credible organization. Their goal for 2024 is to rebuild trust, and that's because they lost the trust of the people. And I guess their way of rebuilding trust is, as I showed you earlier, telling everyone that that we have 2 years left to save the world, right? So they're restoring hope, right? By telling everyone we have 2 years left to save the world so that no one has babies anymore and so on. It's terrible. So we're showing all of this to the counselors. We let them know that the program is voluntary and that they can leave at any time. It says it right there in the joining resolution. It's voluntary and they can leave at any time. We let them know that in Saskatchewan, 95% of rural municipalities have recently passed a resolution stating that CO2 is not a pollutant. It is a building block of all life and photosynthesis, and it goes on in their words. Anyway, 95% of rural municipalities in Saskatchewan passed this resolution that CO2 is not a pollutant and that they will not be implementing net zero CO2 policies. That's an entire province, right? And what did Danielle Smith say yesterday? Was it yesterday? She told the Prime Minister that he needed to stay out of municipal affairs. She said that the federal government needs to stay in their lane and that they have been bypassing the province and going straight for their municipalities and